Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you Monday, July the 22nd. The year's 2024. Let's talk trading. Weekly, open, and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Friendly reminder, risk management. Do not lose any more on any one single trade than you are willing to lose. So let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly. You can see we're almost 5-6 pips above the weekly open, 24 off the high, 12 off the low, and according to the dashboard, all those gaps have filled. Weekly open gap, that is. We are putting in the opening range for the week. As you can see here, we are above the opening range for the year and well above the opening range for the month. We are 207 pips above the yearly open, 126 off the high and 619 off the low. Notice this month we have put in the yearly high at 1.3044. Taking a look at the dashboard, you can see there's only maybe a handful of inside bar trades to trade. So far today, we have an inside bar. If we take a look at the range chart for the pound, we're sitting at about 35 pips. But if you notice, if you take a look around the charts, there's been a lot of action in what looks like the Australian pairs, the yen pairs. Speaking about the yen, we're down to 156, and you can remember, if you remember, I had called to look for a short way back when. Actually, my first call to look for a short was over in this area. So you can see here, if this was a 1 minute chart, you can see this little congestion area, and then it just broke out. And if we talk about looking left, right there, 160 point, call it 160.27. So right around the psychological 160.25, there was the go. Or if you wanted to look for top scraping, right here, you look to the left, you can see there's a couple of, I call it top scraping, but it's probably better to be called high scraping, because in this case, this is the top of the candle. That's the high. So there's the high for this candle, and there's the top. So I usually trade off of the highs, not the actual tops. For the buy zone, once again, we're only looking at about 35 pips of range here. So we've had a couple of long triggers. So you can see we've basically been ranging. It hit the launch pad, but it failed to launch. So we hit it there at 41. We hit all the way up to 42. And there's a 39.5, so it almost got to the launch pad. So probably what this price need to do, break the 129.00 area. So in other words, we need to break this low right here. 129.011. So yeah, let's call it the 1.2900 psychological level. Let's see what happens from there. Range too low for the rat zone. Bambino flex indicator says to go short. Right now we're just 3 pips above the open, daily open that is. Pivot trading plan said near R1 bias is short. It hit R1 and then turned around. Friday's pivot was missed. We've taken out today's pivot. For the week, we've missed the pivot up at 129.52. And we've taken out the pivot for the month. And just to look for fun, H4 pivots. You can see we left a bunch behind here. In and out of the lower wick zone, touched the upper, actually did penetrate into the upper wick zone and came back out. So once again, 70% of the time, price is going to close outside the wick zone. So here, and we're looking at the H1. The range, very low, 35. For the week, we're creating an inside bar. Looking at the price action chart, we've crossed the psychological 25 a bunch of times. Once to the north, south. You can see here it tried to launch. It failed. And looking here at a 1 minute chart with the 3 level ZZ, you can see where it puts in the semaphores or the balls, the 1 ball, 2 ball, 3 ball. You can see how we're basically ranging in those areas. Here, H1 chart, notice how we came across the low of 2 days ago, low of 4 days ago, but price just could not hold these levels. It's one of the things about horizontal lines. You know, you put them there, they stay put. Unless you're putting a horizontal line on something that recalculates itself all the time. And it was kind of interesting. I was reading another trader's, I guess you call it his bulletin or his newsletter, blog. And they were talking about analyzing, you look at the higher time frames and then you go drill down to the lower time frames. And as I always like to say, price is the same, doesn't matter what time frame you look at. So you can see here on the 1 hour, this is where price has been ranging. But you can go all the way down to the 1 minute. And so the question is, you can see here all the different setups. So basically what they're saying is, well, you see, if you look here, you can see what price is doing. So if you were on this white candle, let me expand. So you look to the left, you see these two lows, you see how price fell through. Price, was ranging, and then it dropped down and started a new ranging area lower. Then here it broke out of this low range, came back up to this higher ranging area, but then failed. And this is all between the low from 2 days ago and 4 days ago. So once again, if you drop down to the 1 minute chart, you can see here it put in this little range here, and then depending on what you want to use for a trigger, the Walmart loves the flip-flop box. Right here you had an inside bar, then you could just take the break of that low. See here, there's a couple pips to be had, came back up and then gave you another flip-flop here. So you could have either used these lines as a trigger, or with the flip-flop box you would have maybe given up a pip of entry, barely a pip, but you'd have quote-unquote a double confirmation, and then you can just ride the action. So once price failed to hold this level, and once again when it broke out of this range here, you see it came back up, and maybe depending on where you actually put it, it slightly penetrated it or barely just touched it. And then right here, another flip-flop box. And notice I've got the previous mid indicator sitting here. Actually, it's the TRO mid dots. It'll show me the previous mid, and using that as a bias, you can see here on the flip-flop, open below previous mid. That indicates a short. Opening above indicates a long. So that's how you could play that. And looking at the daily here, once again, we got a missed pivot from 1 day ago. And we did not break out on the previous day's high or low yet. We may not. So, fellow traders, I guess there was some interesting news over the weekend here in the US of A. And it'll be interesting how it affects the markets today. So I hope everybody had a fun and safe weekend. And let's see, we're into the last full trading week of the month. We've got 3 days next week of trading. And I hope everybody's is profitable so far. And when you're trading, I want you to always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.